Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today in geography class, we're going to look at weather and climate. And we're going to see what the difference is between those two terms, because often we interject them together. So we're going to look at what weather is compared to climate. Weather is that day-to-day change. So we turn on the TV and we watch the weather forecast. And they say for the next 3 days what the temperatures are going to be, what the forecast for precipitation is going to be. Because weather can change frequently. And weather is a little less predictable than what a climate is. Yes, forecasters can get a general idea of what it's going to be, especially in regards to temperature and even with precipitation. But that weather is not always 100% right, because we just have to predict it, and we don't have a way to 100% ensure what that weather is going to be. So weather is that day-to-day change in the Earth's atmosphere. So when we're talking about weather, we're talking about items such as precipitation. Precipitation can be in the forms of rain. It can be in the forms of snow, sleet, and hail. But it's that water that's falling to the ground out of the atmosphere. When looking at weather, we definitely talk about temperature. Temperature is how hot or cold the air is. We look at humidity, the amount of moisture in the air. In weather, we also look at wind speed and direction. So, what determines the weather of a place? Some of the factors that determine weather are definitely your proximity to water. If you're closer to a body of water, it may have an effect that your temperature in the atmosphere may be cooler, especially if you live along a big coastline, such as an ocean or a sea, that it would have that cooling, slightly cooling effect on temperatures. Water also provides moisture into the air. If you live just east of Lake Erie during the wintertime, you're going to get a lot more snow than we do in central Pennsylvania, because the weather systems are able to pull moisture from Lake Erie that in the wintertime is going to create higher snowfalls. So proximity to water is one factor that influences weather. You also have air masses and jet streams, and you can see jet streams help to bring cooler or warmer airs from the different latitudes. So as the jet streams adjust, that's where you have the temperature influxes. And I'll tell you, those are really noticeable in the wintertime. When you have that blast of Arctic cold air that is pulled down and the temperatures get really cold and the wind chill sometimes reaches the negatives, it's because of these air masses and jet streams that are being dipped down from the higher latitudes. So if weather is day to day, climate is the average weather a place has over a very long period of time. And since it's the average weather of a place over a long period of time, that means you're able to easily predict what it is like there in regards to climate. We know what Pennsylvania's climate is like. We have 4 distinct seasons in Pennsylvania in our climate. So we can predict that because it is the average that we've had over a long period of time. I know that the climate in the Sahara Desert is going to be warm and dry. Why? Because that's what the average has been for a long period of time. So climates are very predictable. Now, just like weather, there are some factors that can influence climate of an area. First off is elevation, which is height above sea level. When we talk about elevation, we're usually referring to mountainous areas. If you traveled to some tall mountains, even in the summertime, you would be able to see snow at the top. In fact, one of my favorite things I've ever done was have a snowball fight in the top of the Rocky Mountains in the middle of summer, because those mountains still had a lot of snow on the top, and that's because the colder temperatures at the higher elevations. So elevation plays a role, a big role, influencing climate. Your latitude definitely affects your climate. Latitude is how far you are from the equator. The farther you are from the equator, the colder the temperature gets. And the colder the temperature gets over many years, that average, that influences that climate. If I went to northern Alaska, it's farther away from the equator. The climate in Alaska is going to be colder than climates we have in Pennsylvania. And that is because it is further from the equator. Now, if you wanted to go to Jamaica, which is an island in the Caribbean Sea, closer to the equator, the climate there is going to be nice and warm all year round because it is close to the equator. Latitude plays a big role in climate. Mountains, we've already talked about mountains. Mountains and elevation go hand in hand. And then oceans. Oceans also affect climate. Why? Because water takes more to heat and cool, so it holds temperature better than land does. So that takes us to the end of today's notes. Make sure you're reading everything in Google Classroom so you can ensure that you've completed all of the activities for the day. And we'll see you next time.